Hello everyone, and welcome to the Why Does My Horse podcast series. In this series, we use science to answer some of the common questions you might have about your horse child. If you want to get to know your horse better, then this is the place for you. Let's get into it. You stare off into the distance, trying to reassure yourself that everything is fine. This isn't weird at all. But as your horse continues to lick your hand, you can't help but feel a little unsettled and wonder if your horse child is having an identity crisis. It's sort of cute in a gross, slimy kind of way, but you just assume your horse is showing you how much he loves his favorite human, right? Well, sure, he could just be showing his undying love with a sloppy kiss. But as with all things, his behaviour is happening in a context that can give us a helpful clue as to why he feels the need to be so, well, French. When you look at it that way, things can start to get interesting. Here are some things your horse's licking might be telling you. You might be a tasty, salty snack that your horse is in need of. Humans tend to be sweaty and salty, and horses who have low sodium levels might lick our skin to get some of the salts that they need to function properly. How will you know if your horse is low on sodium? Chances are he's going to be licking a bunch of other things like soil or poles, trying to get an inkling of sodium wherever he can. Obviously, it's not great to have him licking every conceivable surface, and it's probably a strong hint that your horse child needs a salt lick to keep him on track and to curb that licking habit. The second reason for unusual licking behavior comes down to ulcers. He needs more saliva because his stomach is painful, and this makes him feel better. How will you know if your horse has ulcers? There will be a few telltale signs along with the licking. Your horse child might become defensive when you groom or do up their girth, or he may struggle with his weight and just his general condition. Ulcers are extremely common in stabled horses, and if your horse child has them, you need to get on top of them as soon as possible. Another reason for licking might be learned behaviour. Have you noticed that your horse gets all snuggly and licky when you arrive at the barn or just before you leave? He might be snuffling around for some treats, and you might just end up giving them to him just to save yourself from the creepy feeling of being licked by your horse. We don't blame you, by the way. Horses are highly motivated by treats and likely to try and extract some from you by any means necessary. How will you know if your horse has learned this behavior? He will only display this weird affinity for licking at certain times when you are most likely to give him food or snacks. You can't really blame him. He just figured out a good way to work the system. If you don't have a salty snacking horse, or a sore ulcer horse, or a sneaky treat stealing horse, you might have the last type on our list, the bored horse. This fella is unmistakable. He licks pretty much anything or anyone. Walls, buckets, the floor, you. He's the special child we all love despite our reservations about how bright the light is upstairs. How will you know if your horse is bored? He's likely to lick only when he's confined or in some other stressful situation. Unlike salty snack horse, he doesn't lick specific items that have a taste. He will lick just anything. He shows no signs of pain like ulcer horse, and he doesn't expect to get any treats out of licking like sneaky treat horse. He just licks because he can, and no one can tell him not to. If this is your horse child, you will want to look at ways to distract him or enrich his environment so that he doesn't find himself at a loose, licky end. Stable treats might be right up his alley and keep him from licking things that could possibly hurt him or make him sick. Horses are marvelous creatures, full of grace, beauty, and the odd quirky habit of licking their humans just to keep us on our toes. We've really gotta love them. That's it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something new about our incredible equine friends. I feel like it's compulsory to add that it would be great if you could like, share, comment, and subscribe. We're also available on Apple Podcast as well as Podcast for Spotify. See you next time.